Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Is the mic picking me up?
Yes, walaikum salam.
Alaikum. Welcome, everyone. It's never easy to be the first speaker, but inshallah, I will do the best that I can. Again, the topic I have today is engaging the American psyche. So just to get started, let me outline the goals I have for my lecture. Inshallah, I will be able to provide you with an understanding, a general understanding of the American audience. Together we will identify ways how you can build empathy and connect with this audience, and we will discuss common pitfalls and hot-button issues to avoid. So just to give a general overview of the United States and its culture. The population of the United States is over 300 million people. People from all over the world, from every region of the world, almost every country, every religion, every ethnic group you can possibly think of, have come together to build this country. This very diversity shapes Americans and how they see religion and how they see culture. To think of Americans as one type of people who all believe the same thing, who all feel the same way, is just not correct. They're just not as homogeneous as many of the countries that we may have come from. My family comes from Mexico, and so there are certain things about Mexicans that are generally true. And that is true for Americans, but there's much more nuance, there's much more diversity there because of the large influx of various cultures, societies, and religions. So, generally it has been my experience, and as I said, as Rafiq said, I am a Muslim. I have been a Muslim for 6 years. Because I don't look like a Muslim, I have often been the only Muslim in the room. And it's been an interesting experience for me because I've been able to really observe how people act or say things about Islam, because people generally don't associate me with Islam when they first meet me, or they don't know. So in general, it's been my experience that most Americans will be curious about your background, will be curious about your faith. Whether you're going to school, whether you're going to work, I would imagine most of us probably do not work in an office or a workplace that is generally filled with Muslims. Does anyone work in an audience or a workplace that is generally Islamic? Or do they often work? You know, okay, so one here. But generally we're going to work with the non-Muslim community. Most Americans, it's been my experience, are quite curious about Islam. And they're quite curious about our culture, and they want to know why we do certain things or we don't do certain things. And they're going to have a lot of questions. And always keep in mind that all Americans, except for the native populations, of course, are descendants of immigrants. This nation, the United States, is a nation of immigrants. And this is something I'm going to return to several times throughout my little lecture here. And I want to remind us all to keep that in mind. The United States is a nation of immigrants. And I want to emphasize that as immigrants, like I'm first generation, as I imagine many of us are, we must be proud of who we are and where we came from. We must never forget the people who came before us, those who maybe crossed the ocean or flew over here and came to start establishing this new life here. And this is going to be something we're going to revisit. One of the best ways, it's been my experience, and of how to build empathy and to really connect with the American audience is to learn how to tell your story. If people ask, who are you, or they want to know who you are, they want to know about your religion, I'll back it up a little bit more. Talk more about what brought you here, what brought your family here. If you're the first person to come over here, why did you come? Did you come here for work, to escape conflict, to build a better life for your children? What was it? Tell this story, connect with your audience in this way. As I said, most Americans aren't descendants of immigrants or they're immigrants themselves. Things like, well, I came over here because there were some job opportunities here and I want to have a better life for my children. Most everyone can connect with that. They will understand that. That's something, that's a commonality that you will have with them. Your story that you would tell is often their own. And when people are able to connect with you on that personal level, and they can see themselves in the place of your ancestors, or even yourself, that will already start to bring down those walls. Those feelings of difference that you are one way and they are another will start to erase because you are able to connect with them on a personal level. So, eventually, of course, the topic of Islam will come up, which is the purpose of our lecture. So, when that comes up, and it inevitably will, how to discuss this, how to speak about Islam. I would encourage you all to stress the commonalities and to remember, why was the Prophet, praise be upon him, sent to us? He was sent, of course, as a blessing to all mankind. To focus on these things. Focus that Islam was a message of unity, of culture, of benevolence, of blessings to the whole world. Focus on these things. Focus on the universal principles of Islam, such as the giving of charity, respecting the elders, and justice for all. These are common themes that every nation, every culture can respect and understand. And let me be clear, I am not saying at all to hide or to be ashamed of our deen. Our deen is something we should be proud of. We must show it by word and action. Often by what we do is so important, how people will judge us and judge Islam. We must understand that rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly, we will be judged, let me rephrase that, Islam will be judged by our actions. I have often been the only Muslim where I've worked. So it's incumbent upon me to pray. There are no other Muslims in my office, but people in my office don't know other Muslims besides myself. I must carry that flag, if you will, so I need to make sure that I do that. I need to act in a way that is in accordance with our deen. I must make sure that I am honest in my dealings. I'm respectful. I maintain proper respect between male and female co-workers. Anything having to do with the rules and dictates of Islam, you must strive to carry out and exemplify yourself. Always remember, you are going to interact with people who will see Islam as a scary, a foreign, a dangerous entity. And you must do your best, again, through word and action, to draw down those feelings, to mitigate those effects. As I said before, you must strive to present the universal way of living that our deen is. Islam, of course, by placing limits and controls on our baser human emotions, enhances humanity in our culture in many and numerous ways. So here's a few talking points to keep in mind when you're discussing Islam with those who are not familiar with it. Remember the Quran, and remember how the Quran says that you must call to those who are not familiar with Islam or disbelievers with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with them in ways that are best and most gracious. Coming at them with angry words, with arrogance, with feeling of intolerance is not going to win points. It's not going to score points. They will ultimately degenerate into an argument, which is probably not going to be helpful to anyone. So don't have a hostile, arrogant, or self-righteous tone. Even if someone comes at you with an arrogant or self-righteous or hostile tone. This is not, why lower yourself to their level? Again, we must present ourselves and do our best to mimic the Prophet, praise and blessings be upon him, and do our best to maintain our calm, maintain our respect, present Islam in the best way possible, answer questions as best as we can, and present the best example. So what should be our goal when we speak to non-Muslims, or those who are not familiar with Islam? Our overarching goal should be this: to convey the wonderful gift that the message of Islam is, not to convert them. Inshallah, the words and actions that we will show will bring them to Islam, but of course we know a person's conversion or reversion is ultimately between them and Allah. We can convey the message, we can provide information, whether a booklet, an action, a word, whatever that is. Our goal is not to convert them per se. Our goal is to facilitate the information, dispel some rumors, dispel some myths, but our goal is not to convert them. We, like the prophets before us, and praise and blessings be upon them all, must convey the message, as I said, by word and deed. And remember, of course, the culture you are dealing with. Many Americans pride themselves on their skepticism. They are very logical people. They like to see proofs. They want to know, well, why should I believe this religion versus this? Or why should I do this based on something I cannot see? Again, because since we're dealing with generally a nation of skeptics, getting into a debate is probably not the best thing. Again, always by word and deed is going to be the best dawah that you can give. The best example that you can give is by living your faith. So, some more talking points. Things to always keep in mind and have this ready at your tongue. Islam teaches many of the same values and principles that also occur in other major religions. It is not a totally different and separate religion without any relationship to existing religions. Let me say that again. Islam is not a totally different or foreign religion. This is something I think, unfortunately, you or, God forbid, your children may hear, that Islam is some different, foreign, crazy religion. No. You must always remember, take it back, that it is a continuation, the bookmark, if you will, the period point, the exclamation point on the history and lineage of the Prophet